What the hell is going on?
I'm glad you asked, Donnie. We're about to be subsumed in trouble. I hate to be the one to break the news to you. A letter to MPs signed by bosses from firms including, but not limited to, Sainsbury's, Asda, Marks & Spencer's, Waitrose, the Co-op, Lidl, McDonald's and KFC. Warned about shortages caused by delays at the border and price rises as a result of tariffs. But as these are people who are in possession of facts and know what they're talking about, nobody was remotely interested in anything they had to say. They were dismissed out of hand by people with no knowledge of any kind whatsoever. Just a belief that if they think the best will happen, then it will. Because we're British, damn it! The government's own analysis says that up to 87% of cross-channel freight trade could be stopped in disruption lasting up to 6 months. Or 0% if you don't believe in numbers. This letter from Sainsbury's, Asda, Marks & Spencer's, Waitrose, the Co-op, Lidl, McDonald's and KFC, who sell pretty much everything that we eat every day for every day of the year. They said in March the situation is more acute as UK produce is out of season. Well, what do we actually make here? I mean, as in grow. Swedes. I mean, not, Swedish people, but Swedes. Turnips. Anybody want to eat those? Of course not. They said in March the situation is more acute as the UK produce is out of season. 90% of our lettuces, 80% of our tomatoes and 70% of our soft fruit is sourced from the EU at that time of the year. And nobody is going to miss them. I think you'll find that is correct. Will we miss vegetables?
No.
Of course not. Fruit? No. The supermarket and restaurant people said, we are extremely concerned that our customers will be among the first to experience the realities of a no-deal Brexit. No, they won't. Those customers will not experience the realities of a no-deal Brexit because they'll screw their eyes up really tight and believe that it won't happen. Therefore, it won't. Like magic. Because these days, everyone's opinion matters. Well, you know what? No, it doesn't. Everyone's opinion does not matter in air traffic control, for instance, or the law, or heart replacement operations. We defer to experts in those circumstances, and we don't give everyone's opinion, no matter how ill-informed, equal weight. We dismiss those that know nothing. Even in football, we don't allow the crowd to make the decisions, because they'd always go with the way of the home team. We have independent experts to make those decisions for us. But running a football match now seems to be done in a more intelligent way than running a country. What the hell is going on? In other news, never mind about the food part, because nobody eats vegetables or fruit. I mean, the government has been trying over and over and over again to make us eat vegetables and fruit, and the public's opinion is to wrinkle their nose and say, disgusting, just at the very idea of it. But how about money? Do we like money?
Yes.
Wow, that was loud. He's very, very animated about that whole money thing. Barclays Bank is triggering plans to shift £166 billion of money into its Irish subsidiary. But fortunately, this has nothing to do with Brexit. In other news, they said it's got everything to do with Brexit.
Oh, no.
Yes. Barclays Bank says it's shifting a huge amount of money, a sizable chunk of its £1.2 trillion worth of assets, due to political uncertainty caused by Brexit. They said due to the continuing uncertainty over whether there might be a no-deal Brexit, or in fact whether the country will still exist after next March, the Barclays Group has determined that it cannot wait any longer. Am I the only one that... No, of course not. I can't possibly be the only one that's stunned at the position that we find ourselves in. I mean, this is ridiculous. What a way to run a country, eh?
Stop whining.
Mr. Justice Snowden, a judge, he can't possibly be called Mr. Justice Snowden. But anyway, he said he was giving his go-ahead. Why a judge needs to give their go-ahead for a private company to move its funds here, there and everywhere, baby, I don't know. But anyway, that's the case. He said, on any view, the scale of transfer of this business is huge. It applies to around 5,000 clients. 5,000 clients own £166 billion worth of money? But, Sainsbury's and Asda and Marks and Spencer's and Waitrose and Co-op and Lidl and McDonald's and KFC and Barclays and Honda and Toyota and Nomura and all of these people are saying, please, no, don't go. And the ardent leavers, all they can hear when all of those companies sound the warning bells, what they're hearing is... You're not paying attention to one blind bit of it. And there was that fella on... OK, let me take that call there. Number one. Yes, sir. Okay. So anyway, like I was saying, there was this thing on Question Time. Now, I can't bear watching that programme. What's her name for me is a lady who introduces people's personal knickknacks for a living. She's not that woman to me. She's the nice lady off the Antiques show. But apart from that, I just don't want to watch all those people shouting at each other, whinging and whining and moaning. But occasionally it does make the news. And there was a fella that got a round of applause on Question Time. Britain will work around any disruption caused by a no-deal Brexit. Members of the public of the Question Time audience insisted last night. Members of the public who have no knowledge or experience of international trade believe that everything will be all right. We're saved. And this bloke got a huge round of applause for telling a panel that they were talking absolute rubbish about a no deal. And that applause was for a fantasy. It was not based on facts. They just wish that everything will be all right. And who actually does have experience in the field of importing and selling groceries? Well, I expect that would include Sainsbury's, Asda, Marks and Spencer's, Waitrose, the Co-op, Lidl, McDonald's and KFC. Who all said...
Warning, warning!
Yeah, and this bloke in the audience said, oh no it isn't, because he didn't want it to be true. And the audience gave him a round of applause. Morons. We're surrounded by morons. Major supermarkets warned that the shelves could be empty of fresh produce within days of Britain crashing out on March the 29th, if no deal can be agreed. But as they are experts in the possession of facts, no one was remotely interested in anything they had to say. And this audience cheered when one man said, I think it's absolute rubbish, really. There's a lot of talk about we won't get lettuces into the country, tomatoes and other produce. There is going to be disruption, there's no doubt about that, but in this country we are resilient. Well, he seems to be arguing with himself. Is there going to be disruption? Is there any doubt about it? And is that disruption going to be, disruptive? Pick one. Well, apparently there will be disruption, but it's not disruptive, and so we'll be fine. He said, we are resilient. He said, we're going to find a way around these problems. It's going to take a little time. There might be a bit of disruption, but we have companies and corporations who've already found ways not to pay taxes in this country. Are you telling me they aren't going to find a way to get a few letters from Spain to England? And most of the rest of the audience were thinking, well, I don't really like lettuce anyway. What is lettuce? It's like green, crunchy water. There's nothing in it. And Gina Miller... you know Gina Miller, don't you?
No!
Yes, that's her. She said it's not about lettuce and tomatoes, it's about agencies and infrastructure, and we don't have it. And you know what? I can't believe I'm about to say this, but she's completely correct in every respect. We are not remotely prepared. We don't have the border staff. We fired them all. We don't have the infrastructure because we ain't built it. We haven't got the laws because they haven't passed them. We don't have the trade deals because we haven't made them. And we know this because the government said so. And so did the Institute for Government. Hell, if you don't want to listen to them, just listen to the goings-on in Parliament. You can tell we're woefully unprepared. But that does not sit well with those that have decided that belief in all that fairy story happy ending stuff will make it true. And now we're at the point where the fundamentalist Brexiteer ultras don't believe the head of Toyota and the head of Nissan and the head of Jaguar and the head of Airbus and the head of Barclays and the head of the CBI and the head of the Japanese banks, all of whom have warned about the dangers of Brexit and have either made plans to shift their operations or have already done so. Instead, the Brexiteers believe an old Etonian millionaire who set up his last office in Ireland because of Brexit, a billionaire who shifted his head office to Singapore because of Brexit, and a billionaire who moved to Monaco. And a man who runs cheap pubs. And as the only one of that lot actually employs a number of people, is the man who runs cheap pubs. Is that the glorious future that awaits us? Working as bar staff on minimum wage to serve the dwindling number of people that actually go to pubs these days. Anybody still go to a pub?
No.
Of course not. It's a $5 a pint, apart from anything else. Meanwhile, leading retailers warned that a no-deal Brexit could cause significant disruption to food supplies because Britain is dependent on the EU for fresh produce. And I'd like to come back to that issue of resilience again. That fellow who said that we are a resilient country. Well, I beg to differ, and I've got proof, and I'll come to that in just a minute. 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk, and if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday and Saturday night at 10, Nick Abbot, LBC. Wouldn't it be nice if that had worked?
This is LBC. 84850.
You're wondering what it's all about, and I can't tell you because I don't know myself.
Nobody does. 0345 6060 973. Right, here's that important call that I failed to connect with earlier on. David in Durham. Yes, sir.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. You're panicking about now, man.
Oh, well, thank goodness for that.
You see, can you mind on a few years ago, you know a fella called Mark Carney?
Yes.
He's an expert, isn't he? He's an expert.
Well, let's hope so, because he's getting the big
He
money.
knows what he's on with.
Yes.
No, if I can mind correctly, he's one of the experts that said that a few years ago, if Britain didn't join the euro, it meant financial disaster. People wouldn't trade with us. We're going to sink, and we'll have to join the euro. Or
I don't recall him saying that.
Oh, that's convenient. Well, he did. He did.
Well, if you say so.
I'll tell you where it is, right?
Well, how do you know that it's not true? I mean, we didn't, but if we had done, we may be spectacularly rich by now. Each and every one of us could be billionaires, David. You don't know that it's not true?
No, but did you notice the difference?
Between what and what?
When we didn't join the euro.
Well, how could you notice the difference between when you didn't do something?
Well,
there is no difference, because there's... I mean, that's a silly question.
There would be if experts like Mark Carney were right in saying that we're all going to starve. You know
what I object to with people. Oh God, please, David. What I object to with people such as yourself is whenever you hear something that you don't agree with, then you just come out with the same old thing. Oh, it's scaremongering. It's not true. It won't come to pass because I don't believe it will.
It won't come to pass because the experts have been disastrously wrong before.
Let me ask you a question, David. When you're ill and you go to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ask the opinion of experts?
Nah.
Okay, thanks a lot, mate. 034, I think that's your first mistake. See, this nonsense about, we're not remotely interested in the opinions of experts anymore. Really? Okay, well then, when you go to the doctor next, just ask the person on reception what they think about your ailment. Or maybe ask the cleaner if they're still around, what they think. Or maybe the person who just happens to be walking past the building. Ask them if they have a medical opinion about your oozings. Keep your oozings to yourself.
Disgusting.
0345 6060 973. Here's what the Bank of England Governor Mark Carney actually did say. This was back end of last year. Bank Governor Mark Carney defended his cabinet briefing on a no-deal Brexit as Eurosceptics accused him of behaving like a screaming banshee, which is pretty much exactly what that last guy said. Anything they don't like the sound of, you just dismiss it out of hand. Now, did that guy sound like an expert in economics? A screaming banshee. That's what they called him. I mean, how could anybody say anything negative might come from leaving the evil European unelected superstate? Throw caution to the wind, let's hold hands and run into traffic together. What could possibly go wrong? And this Bank of England chief, Mark Carney, used his vast experience and knowledge and expertise to brief Theresa May's ministers about a no-deal Brexit. He said that leaving under those circumstances... See, I avoided saying crashing out. I did very well. If we sail out of the European Union on a cloud of perfume with a no-deal Brexit, we will be in very big trouble, huge, is what he said. He said that crashing out could produce a recession worse than the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis, which we're not over yet. I mean, people keep talking about the short-term financial problems caused by Brexit. Well, the short-term financial problem that was caused by the bankers finagling in 2007, we're still trying to get over. We're not even remotely out of that hole yet. And we're busy orchestrating our leap into another one. He has stress-tested banks. The banks were being prepared for a 30% plunge in house prices. Well, house prices are going down. Whether it goes down by 30% or not is, well, it depends on where you live, I suppose. If you live in prime central London, then you might be expecting just exactly that. But and to be clear, it was just one of many stress tests that were applied to banks in the expectation that another financial disaster is around the corner, as they always are. We're due another financial disaster regardless of Brexit, because it's time. These things just come around like clockwork. And so it would be remiss of somebody who runs the Bank of England not to stress test those banks. But just the very idea that they were stress tested made Brexiteer ultras flip their wigs. How dare you suggest that something bad might happen? Like I see the news going past me on a daily basis. It's like a I don't know what it's like. It's like a cartoon of a catastrophe. It's almost like a comedy show. How not to run a country. Carry on screwing it up. So the Brexiteer ultras flip their hats at the very idea that someone should be preparing for the worst. You know, that's traitor talk. Because once we're out of the EU, there will only be good times, and jam for tea, and happiness will abound, and there'll be Tweety birds chirruping in the trees. Won't that sound lovely? And after the Purple Face Brigade stopped their harumphing, the Governor of the Bank of England had to defend his remarks, saying our job is not to hope for the best, but to plan for the worst. Correct. He must think we're a bunch of 2-year-olds. Constantly screaming like a baby. Frankly, I'm embarrassed. And people call up, and I will get... I'm due for 2.5 hours of people calling up this radio show and screaming at me for my moronicism. Is that a word?
No.
Moronicism. Saying, and attacking me for my lack of belief. So that's going to get us through it. God. I wonder who the heroes are going to be when people start to write history about this. History books. I mean, just the very idea of history books is boring. Like, ugh, I can't stand it. But people will, and who's going to be the hero? We're holding out for a hero. Any ideas?
I'm a nutcase.
Not you. Mark Carney says uncertainty around Brexit has had an additional dampening effect on the economy, which is true. It's a fact. It's indisputable, unless you don't believe in truth or facts. There's a lot of that about. Of course, you might not be aware that it has had a dampening effect on the economy if you are a multi-millionaire who has 6 children that you pay someone else to look after. Jacob Rees-Mogg, the chief Tory in charge of the sinisterly named European Research Group, which does sound like something that James Bond would be battling. He said the Governor of the Bank of England is meant to be able to influence events through the modest movement of his eyebrows, not by imitating a screaming banshee. Oh, for crying out loud. No, he's not. In what parallel universe is a man in charge of the Bank of England supposed to move markets by raising his eyebrow? He's not Roger Moore. And then the usual suspect said it's high time we stop dealing with Project Fear and focus on Project Fact. Well, fact's the last thing that these people want. Like I say, it's just embarrassing that this lot are the ones that are speaking loudest in this country, and we have decided as a nation to follow whoever shouts the loudest. I mean, the rest of the world can hear them too, you know, and they're guffawing. Thank goodness for the orange oaf in the White House, because without you, Donny, we would be the laughingstock of the world.
Oh, shut up!
High time we stopped dealing with Project Fear and focused on Project Fact. That's the last thing that anybody wants. Facts. There's no such thing as facts anymore. Everybody makes up their own facts. Alternative... What was the phrase? Alternative facts. It's an alternate reality. Not that kind of reality.
Groovy.
Not that kind of reality, but an alternative set of facts that you can just make up on the spot. And if you believe them, then it makes them true. That's where we are as a country. It's just beyond belief, isn't it? I can't believe that we're in this position. But, it makes for an interesting life, I suppose. I would like to just go for a little period of boredom, wouldn't you? Just to get off this roller coaster, just for a while. Because going everywhere by roller coaster gets a little wearing after a while, don't it? It's like you need to go everywhere with a bucket, just in case. And I still want to get to the resilience part. I haven't mentioned that yet. That fella on Question Time got a round of applause for saying that we are a resilient country. Well, I beg to differ, and I've got proof. But just 1 minute. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, you're almost certainly wasting your life. Friday and Saturday night at 10, Nick Abbot, LBC. Look, it's 10:30, the news headlines with Zora Sullivan.
London City Airport says it's...
Not one of your fans!
Durham. Hello, Elizabeth.
Oh, hello, Nick. I wish you well in the next couple of months. I really do. I picked up the phone because I picked it up just as I heard Dave from Durham was this semi-literate moron. I've had 2.5 years of listening to moronic morons.
Right.
And I'm sorry.
I love it when callers start picking fights with each other. Semi-literate moron, you said.
Well, I know it's not exactly correct to say that. He is a moron.
Right.
And there were 16-odd million of them. Actually, there were 17.5. Only some of them dressed up with fancy attitudes and dialects and everything else, so we forget about that. Some of them even have places in Dublin where they put all their money.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've spent 2.5 years fighting with myself.
Fighting with yourself?
I'm the only one in the family who is a Remainer, so I'm not really allowed to speak a lot about how I feel about things.
Yeah,
because
well,
I'm
don't do it with your family. Don't talk about with friends and family. No, with complete strangers on the radio. Yeah, I mean you can call me up and shout at me for my ardent
No,
stupidity.
I don't want to shout at you.
Okay,
I find you so humorous. I love listening to you, and I agree with virtually everything you have to say. And
Virtually?
It's just a pleasure. But I watched Question Time the other night, and I'm tired of hearing people say, the Europeans, and I'm shouting at the screen saying, we are all Europeans. I'm a European. But all of a sudden, we're not Europeans. As though they're our enemy.
Well, yeah, everybody's picked sides on this and every other issue on the planet. There is no grey area on anything anymore. You're either an extreme or one way or the other. And everybody's a jet or a shark. Which one are you, Elizabeth?
I'm the one that has the fact.
Right, the sharks then.
If you want to call me that, yes.
Okay. All right.
I listen to everything. I understand lots of things. I've lived overseas for many years. I go to France a lot of the time. I do all sorts of things. And I hear what people are saying over there. And I speak regularly to German people and all sorts of people. And they all think, what the hell is happening to this country?
Yeah. I would imagine so. It makes what's happening in their country seem like a picnic by comparison.
In comparison, when they start telling me that any of our politicians are superior to people such as Angela Merkel, I could laugh.
Right.
I'm not laughing.
You're not laughing now.
I'm very sad.
But you could do. In an emergency, you could laugh. That's what you're saying.
I would try my very best.
Okay, well, try again. Thanks a lot, Elizabeth. By the way, hot news about Princess Sparkles, the Duchess of Sussex. I bet if I went into the street with a clipboard and a fiver and asked the first 100 people who the Duchess of Sussex is, I bet not one single person would have any idea what I was talking about. The Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Sparkles. She's left messages for sex workers to find in their food parcels. Food parcels? Well, right. Now, does it come with lunch? I mean, is that one of the benefits? Anyway, she went to a charity in Bristol that makes up food parcels for sex workers, and hang on, I'm going to cough. And Meghan Sparkles wrote kind words of empowerment on an item that was included in their luncheon munchin. To wit, bananas. Now, I've heard of a message in a bottle, but a message on a banana. She wrote messages on bananas and gave them to sex workers.
Disgusting.
Is this real life or am I hallucinating? 0345 6060 973. Shrewsbury. Hello, Charles.
Hello, Nick. Good evening. Now, I'm very sorry. I'm going to shout at you.
You what?
But I'm not going to cheer you up.
Ah, yes. Okay, go ahead.
But this is about security of food supplies, and you'll note that some reserve units are going to be mobilised in mid-February. The armed forces will be on standby.
Oh, yeah. I mean, is that an indication that we're going in the right direction? The armed forces are going to be on standby. I mean, that tells me that at some point we've turned the wrong corner.
Yeah. Well, I used to lead before I hired a defence and security consultancy.
Your phone just dipped out for a second there at an important part. Say that again.
Okay, so I used to lead before I was retired.
Did it again? You used to what?
I used to lead a defence and security
Lead!
consultancy.
Okay, see, that was the part that we didn't get.
I was a senior analyst at a defence and security consultancy.
Right.
One of the things we did was study for a Far Eastern country about threats to society, and a subset of that was about security.
Oh, do you have a landline, Charles? Because I'd actually quite like to listen to what you're saying, but your phone is crapping out on you.
Is that any better now?
No. Can we call you back? Get to higher ground.
Yeah, okay.
All right, thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. I want to hear what he has got to say, and just have they actually managed to invent a phone yet, a mobile phone that you can make phone calls with?
No.
That's because the kids don't use phone calls anymore, do they? They spend their entire life waggling their thumbs at each other. He might as well have tried to make a telephone call on one of those sex workers' bananas. 0345. What possessed the woman to write a message on a banana, apart from anything? I mean, presumably she didn't peel it first, but even so. With what implement did she write it on a banana? Because I've tried to write on a banana with a ballpoint pen, and you don't get very far. So maybe she was using a Sharpie. I mean, is it worth reading that article again?
No.
The Duchess of Sussex has left loving messages for sex workers to find in their food parcels during a visit to a Bristol charity. She wrote the kind words of empowerment on bananas as she helped volunteers to pack lunches. Did it have to be bananas? Is my query. Well, just one of my many, many queries about this whole issue. Oh, he's on a landline. Holy moly, you do actually have a landline. That's excellent news. I bet we can hear you like you're standing in the room. Charles.
Right. Let's try it again.
Excellent.
Oh, good. Right, so about 15 years ago, we did a study for a Far Eastern country and threats to society, and one of the subsets of that was the security of food supplies.
Yes.
And one of the things we identified in that study was that the supermarkets are really the Achilles heel here. And what happens is when there is a problem, and there are lots and lots of good examples, especially in South America and in the Far East, very good examples of when people get frightened, when they feel that the situation's going out of control, the first thing they do is worry about food for their families. And they descend on the supermarkets. And there are really good examples of supermarkets, large numbers of supermarkets being literally stripped bare in about 2 hours.
Yeah.
Now, it's quite possible that what we might see here is that around about 2 weeks before a no-deal Brexit, people start to get worried. And they
start to get worried.
They descend.
Some of us are worried right now.
They descend on the supermarkets, and of course, the depots of the big supermarket chains are all just in time.
Yeah.
The whole thing is stripped.
The crisp aisle will get stripped first.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But you can imagine what will happen. Now, very interestingly, and one of the reasons I phoned tonight is I've been asked twice in the last 24 hours by very nice ladies who said, Charles, do you think we should start buying some extra food in and putting it in our larder?
Yeah.
And I thought, here we go. There will probably be quite a lot of people now starting to fill their larders up. Mm-hmm. And then if there is a really good threat of a no-deal Brexit, then just watch the way the supermarkets get emptied.
Well, we don't have to wait to see what's going to happen because the government have already started to do this very same thing on our behalf. I mean, apparently there are no more warehouse, there's no vacancies in any warehouse in the country because of that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And the government, generally speaking, the government have around about 30 days supply. They used to have 60 days, but I think they ran it down a bit. But these are all basic essentials. And they have to be guarded. I mean, the moment things look as though they're getting dicey, troops will go in and start guarding all the food depots.
Yeah, and just imagine if we ran out of toilet tissue.
Wow. I mean, what about chocky bars and things like that? I mean, it's really frightening. I mean, if I couldn't get my Twix bar, I'd be desperate.
Yeah, you'd be out of your mind.
That's right.
So your advice actually would be to what?
Well, I don't want to start any sort of panic, and I think my advice would be to make bloody sure we get a good deal and everybody knows about it in good time.
Right. So, in the absence of that assurance,
I would buy some tins of Irish stew. At least you'll get your protein then, because you'll get some mashed potato powder and things like that from the government food store.
Okay, that's excellent.
You stand in the queue.
Yeah, excellent advice for all vegans. Irish stew. Okay, good work. Thanks a lot, Charles. Okay. By the way, what was that country that you were looking into?
No, I'm still on the old confidentiality
it's a
agreement.
Secret.
And I'd be frightened. I don't want to break it. I'm retired now. I don't want any more problems.
Okay. You don't want them to come and get you.
Well, they might sue me. That's
Okay.
you know.
All right. Thanks a lot, Charles. Good work. Cheers, mate. 0345 6060 973. Well, I haven't. I've got about as much food as will last me till tomorrow, as most people in this country do. A lot of people now just don't do that massive weekly shop that people used to do. They get a box with instructions on the outside and stick it in the microwave when they get home. You know, ping food. And and so they've got exactly enough to last them through the night, and that's about it. But the government's stockpiling. And what about medicines? Blimey, if we run out of pills, wouldn't that be awful? Particularly the green ones, because I do really like the green ones.
Yowza.
0345 6060 973, text 84850, email nick@lbc.co.uk, and if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Let me just take this moment to remind you about my podcast. It's a brand new podcast every week, and I think you'll find it a delight. It's about 30 minutes long, and at the end of the podcasts, I put one of my favourite calls from my show, Friday and Saturday night at 10, and I stick that on the end for the amusement of all. And you can find them on our global app, which works for Apple people. I still don't know whether it works for Android. My belief is that it doesn't, but it might just be my phone. But if it doesn't work for your Android on the global app, then you can find them wherever they give away excellent podcasts. And I commend it to the House.
LBC at the weekend. 973.
You're wondering what it's all about, and I can't tell you because I don't know myself.
0345 6060 973. Did I play that one already? Oh, I don't know. Dagenham. Hello, Verrill.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
The guy that rang up and said that Mark Carney said that if we didn't join the euro, we'd be in trouble.
Yes.
The euro was around before Mark Carney became the head of the Bank of England. He became head of the Bank of England in 2012. The euro was around long before that, so I don't know where that guy got his facts from.
Well, his assertion was that Mark Carney suggested that we should join the euro, otherwise we'll be in big trouble, huge. I don't recall that.
Mark Carney never said no such thing. I know all the things that he said.
All of them?
The things that he said.
All of them? Is that true?
Most of them.
Most
the important things. He never once said, we're going to die of nothing at all. All he was saying is, he knows his job. The guy that was talking to you, I don't think he knows what he's talking about. Now, there was a guy today on the radio, phoned him, Rees-Mogg from America. He's an American, and he said that Rees-Mogg is weak, and he should be as strong as the President of America.
Oh, my God.
And Rees-Mogg said to him, oh, do you think he should have continued the
government shutdown, yeah.
Yeah. And the guy said, of course. He said he should have kept it going. And I'm thinking to myself, hang on. This guy that's saying this, he's probably loaded. He's got so much money that he don't care about the people that's not.
I am so sick of being told what's best for me by millionaires and billionaires.
Exactly. They don't want to hear what nobody is saying, but they want to hear what Rees-Mogg's saying.
It's astounding to me, really, that people can be.
Farage is saying. Nigel Farage. I don't even know. I can't even describe that one.
Well, let him do it.
I'm a nutcase.
There you go.
I love that one. I'm a nutcase. These people are so stupid. This man said I've been campaigning to leave Europe for 27 years, and the day after the vote, he disappeared.
We're still not missing him.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Beryl. I've got to go. Cheers, mate. 0345 6060 973. Let me see if I can do some tweets and emails and such. Tony says Sainsbury's and KFC are part of the deep state and not to be trusted. See, I don't know whether you're joking, Tony, or whether you actually believe that, because it would if you actually believed it, then I wouldn't be remotely surprised. Sainsbury and KFC, part of the deep state. Ron says, again, you've got it right. What? Really? Must have been by accident. It's like if you put a room full of monkeys in front of typewriters, eventually they will write the works of Shakespeare. That is a fact. Anyway, Ron says, again, you got it right. I read today that artificial intelligence will be taking over jobs done by factory workers, salespersons, bus and taxi drivers, and also some journalists within 3 years. Journalists? What? Well, thank God I'm not a journalist. Yeah, well, there's all sorts of news about artificial intelligence, and it keeps coming out, and it keeps coming out, and is anybody remotely interested?
No.
No, of course, because we're busy doing other things. It's like I've used this simile before, this scenario. We are arranging grains of sand on the beach with Brexit, completely oblivious to behind us, this giant tsunami of change is bearing down upon us. And we're obsessed with this, which is going to make the artificial intelligence revolution is going to make Brexit seem like a tea party. Oh, I could do with a cup of tea and a cake right now. Who couldn't? Hands up, who wants one? Wandsworth. Hello, John.
Hello, mate.
John.
Hello?
Yes, John.
Ah, hello, mate. Now, just picking up on an analogy you made earlier about experts.
Experts, yes.
You said you say you go into the doctors, you might as well ask the receptionist and so forth.
No, if you are not interested in the opinion of experts or the so-called elite, then just treat yourself. You know so much.
You're saying you go into the doctors and see the receptionist.
Yes.
Nowadays, you have to phone the receptionist first. She asks you half a dozen questions, and then she decides whether you see the doctor.
Yeah, but the doctor decides what your treatment is going to be.
No, the doctor don't decide nothing. The receptionist first, and if she doesn't agree,
yeah.
you nip off to your local booth, let's say, and you ask the person walking down the road. So,
no, you ask for the chemist, who is also an elite expert.
Of course, yeah, there's loads of them about. We know that. And nobody knows what they're talking about.
Chemists? Of course they do. That's their job. Chemists.
Oh, so they say.
So they say.
And the other one's Mark Darby. He's telling us that he's regulating the banks, he's doing this. It's like putting the manager of the home football team and using him as the referee for the game, isn't it, really? Let's be fair.
No.
He's not going to run the sides down, is he?
He's not going to run the side down? What do you mean?
The banking side.
Yeah, it's his job to...
No. Yes, I know what his job is to do. His job's there to shore it up. What we need...
To shore it up. Well, would it be... Would it be okay with you if the banking system collapsed?
It did, 2008.
Well, it didn't.
And then Mark Carney came in after that, and now he's regulating the banks. As I say, it's like putting the young manager in charge of the football team. He's like, yeah, that's right. What we need...
It's like the manager... like putting the manager in charge of the football team. Isn't that how football teams are run?
Nick, no. Listen to what I said, Nick. It's like putting the home team manager to referee the football match.
Well, you didn't say that, but now...
Right,
okay,
I did earlier, yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
I wasn't listening.
Well, all I'm saying is, I'm not having a go. What I'm saying is, surely our Parliament should get itself together and instead of one party trying to work this thing out, form a committee of cross-party and do the best they can.
Well, I thought that's what they were doing. I thought they were doing the best they could, and this is what we've got. Awful.
Well, leave that out. I agree with that, by the way. I agree with that. They probably are doing the best they can, and that's what we got. But a cross-party, I mean, Toby won't talk to May. May wouldn't talk to anyone for 2 years. I can sort this out. 2 years down the line, I can't. I better talk to Cole. I better talk to him now.
Yeah, and now she's throwing money around like a drunken sailor. Now she's saying, come over to my side, come over to the dark side, and I'll give you all the money you want to the various, to Labour's heartlands. I know I and the Conservative government have been ignoring you since the dawn of time, but now we really, really care about you and your opinions. Sure they do. Sure they do. But I'll get onto that in a minute. Thanks a lot, John. That line was absolutely abysmal. That wasn't oh, by the way, when that fella called back on that landline, wasn't that the audio absolutely perfect in every way, shape and form? See, that's what it used to be like in the old days. It were grand when I were a lad. We used to be able to hear each other on the telephone. Well, we used to have party lines. We could hear our next-door neighbours on the telephone. You pick the phone up, and they'd be having a chit-chat down the road. Because you used to share the line. You tell that to the young people, the young folk today, and they won't believe you. It's true. Well, we haven't moved forward, really, have we? Because 50 years ago, we used to be able to hear each other when we gave each other a bell on the phone. These days, it's just illegible. Cannot be heard by the human ear. So if you have a landline, then pretty pleased with sugar on top, use it. 0345 6060 973. Now, I do want to talk about Britain's resilience, because I have proof that we ain't got none. I'll talk about that in a minute. Hang on.
What number are you calling from?
I'm glad you asked. It's 0345 6060 973. Let me do a couple of texts and emails. This one says, one vegetable that the British farmer grow that you did not mention is Brussels sprouts. Imagine Christmas dinner without them.
Disgusting.
I like sprouts. I do. There's all sorts of things you can do with sprouts. You can fry them with onions and garlic. Ooh, so yummy. You can don't boil them. That's all. I mean, sprouts aren't just for Christmas. Like dogs. This text says, ranting like a spoilt child again with juvenile recorded playbacks. Oh, for crying out loud. Oh, I don't like this and I don't like that, and moan, 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 moan.
Stop whining.
Andy says, I'm sick of these politicians. You know why there aren't enough circus shows around anymore? Because the clowns have joined politics. And Nick says, I have to correct the listener who tweeted that KFC were part of a deep state. They're actually part of the deep fried state. Hashtag listeners with material. Ugh. Red Hill. Hello, Vivian.
Oh, good evening, Nick.
Yes, sir.
So, I've, been listening to your show. I'd like to address your concerns about us leaving the European Union.
Well, I'm glad you called.
Well, so what are your main concerns?
Away. What are my main concerns?
I'll jump in on food security, if you like.
Go on, then.
Okay, food security. Okay, so from what I understand, so we leave the European Union and the common market. We take our economy. We take our economy.
We leave the what now?
Economy. We leave the common market. Yes. The European trade bloc, European Union trade bloc.
Whatever it's called. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is.
Wait
a minute. Can I just establish that you are speaking from what you understand?
From what I understand, yeah. Mm-hmm. From what I understand. We leave the European Union, the common market.
Exactly.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We take our economy out of that trade bloc.
We
bring our economy out of that trade bloc.
Yes.
Of that trade bloc.
Yes.
And then we take that economy and we put it into the free market economy.
Ah, well, now you're talking.
Okay. Yeah, we're on the same page. Please tell me we are.
Vivian, we're not even on the same book.
Okay then. Well, we'll go from where I started. We've come out of the economy, common market. We're in the free market. We've taken our economy out into the free market.
Right.
That economy is worth a certain value. Has a certain value. It's a certain. Well, you tell me how much trade we do with the European Union.
6.
Okay, you do that. Okay, we do 6 trade with the European Union. That economy now goes out of that trade bloc. Okay, and into the free market. That's 6 in the free market.
Wow. Well, right. that makes it sound much better.
So, what is the problem there? If the European Union want to trade with the UK in that free market, okay, then that doesn't bind us to their joint economic, trade, cultural, technology.
Mm. Yeah, I think joint may be the operative word there.
Want to score some pot?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we understand what we're saying here.
Well,
okay.
I don't believe anybody understands what you're saying, Vivian. Not one single person listening to this show right now understands what, including yourself.
No, I understand what I'm saying.
Oh, well, I was wrong about that.
Okay. So we've taken our economy out. It's now available to countries that are no longer in that economy.
Now, can I just say, is
China,
it all 6?
Russia. All 6 can reduce our current. All 6 can raise objection to our current trade schedule that we've levied with the World Trade Organisation.
And this
other other economies.
And you're saying
can
this
dive in on that
based on
economies
what you
can
understand.
dive in on that. From what basic mathematics.
It is just basic maths.
Deductive reasoning, surely. Are we not talking the same language here?
No.
So what country wouldn't want to sell us? What is it you're afraid of? Brussels sprouts. What country can't grow Brussels sprouts that we can't trade with?
What country cannot grow Brussels sprouts?
And what country you're afraid of security of food? I think that underestimates the value of British farming. For one, I think the British farming's been rather damaged by its influence by the European Union.
In what way?
Okay. Well, I'd say it's been taken over by companies away from private farmers. Okay, there's a lot of European Union policy, okay, which raises regulation standards that prices out, the private farmer and forces them to join larger companies in order to meet these regulations, etc.
Right. So it's the evil European overlords who have forced farmers to accept.
That's one issue for farming.
Giant sums of money from
energy.
companies
You're worried about energy security.
Farms.
Okay, what are you worried about with energy security?
Is this another field of your expertise, energy security?
This is something you've raised on your show. You're worried about not having energy. We have French companies with their nuclear power stations on our country.
Please, soothe my furrowed brow,
European Union, a nuclear power station run by a foreign country in our country.
Yeah.
Yeah?
We wouldn't want that. Is that what you're saying?
No, well, so at the end of the day, you're worried about energy security. We're buying our energy through this company anyway. We're not buying just energy. This is energy that we don't have any control of. What's happening at that power station, okay, now affects other places in Wales, okay, because it's being managed from outside of our country, okay, with interests that are outside of, in a greater good rather than in individual countries' best interest, yeah?
Well, you're making a lot of sense, Vivian.
Please, I thank you, applaud you for saying so. Okay, and I would like to go further into any subject you have worry about with leaving the European Union. Anytime, of course.
Anytime, any place, anywhere.
Well, yeah, of course. You're a really great show. I really enjoy it.
Okay, thanks a lot, Vivian. I enjoy your show too. Did that make any sense?
No.
I don't think so. That has got to be one of the calls I'll put on the end of my podcast. That was superb. Unfortunately, for the future of our country, that fella is who we're following now. He is the person that we have decided has our best, has a plan for the best future of this country. He's the person that shouts the loudest, therefore he's the one that we're following right now. Is this real life? Maybe at some point I was offered the red pill and the blue pill, and I think I picked the wrong one. Richard in Chelsea says, with dire warnings of food shortages post-Brexit, shouldn't we be issued with ration books? Well, a lot of people would actually love that. Oh, go back to the days when there wasn't anything in the shop, when even sex workers didn't have bananas. And bombs were falling from the sky, and people were dying of rickets and other diseases. And sewage flowed through the streets. Oh, the smell of it. You know, the good old days. Diane says, aside from business, I'm worried about my mum due to the total mess-up of Brexit. So far, it's affecting the ability to get the trial drug that has helped her function with some semblance of life for the past few years now. She's got approximately 3 weeks' worth of tablets left, and the chemist is currently unable to get more. Blimey. This text says, the country will not run short of vegetables in the event of a no-deal Brexit. If there's one thing that this country is not short of, it's vegetables. 52% of them voted Brexit. Well, see, now that's just offensive. And he says, and if you're wondering about the resilience of this country in the event of a mass Brexit chaos, just look at what happened in yesterday's dollop of snow. Bring it on, we can handle it. Well, I do want to talk about our resilience. But first, perhaps, based on that last conversation, maybe we should talk about education.
Correct.
Should we give that a moment's thought? Oh, my God. The entire country is... You know what? People say that we no longer are interested in the opinions of experts. Yes, we are. Everybody is an expert now on everything. And everybody's opinions are equally valid, regardless of how asinine, stupid, and moronic they happen to be. It's the exact same thing that the ultra-right wing always moan about young people for insisting on, and that is that everyone must get prizes. It's curious, ain't it, that almost everything that certain individuals throw out as insults and accusations about those who are younger than they are, they themselves are guilty of. How many times have you heard people whining about kids at school saying everybody must get prizes and nobody's a loser, and we used to be great in the old days and there used to be one winner and everybody else lost, and they would get treated accordingly. No! We would say. Well, it's the exact same thing we got now. Everybody must get prizes. Everybody must be attended to equally, regardless of how misinformed and idiotic they are. Now, I'm not saying that any caller to this show so far has been misinformed or idiotic. But... I'm going to get onto the resilience bit in a minute. This fella on Question Time got a round of applause from an audience of numbskulls saying that, we don't have any problem with food in this country. Post-Brexit, there's no problem with food. And based on no information of any kind whatsoever, the audience applauded him, as though that he was speaking the truth just because they agreed with it. It's like I said, everybody must get prizes. No, there is no a wrong answer anymore. You know that old phrase, there are no stupid questions? Well, yeah, there are. And there are stupid answers. But you're not allowed to say that anymore. Because everybody must be attended to equally. Everybody gets an A. Apart from Donald Trump, who gets an A+.
Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
0345 6060 973. Friday and Saturday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
LBC.
So I still remember...
Abbott.
Everything is going extremely well.
You bet your life it is. 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Oh, hey, I've got my book out. My book's out. It only took bloomin' ages, that's all. But it's available on ebook, or if you really, really hate trees, it's available in paperback as well. It's called The Car Crash 24-Hour-a-Day Multiple Newsgasm. The View from the Rear Seat. Or the back seat, something like that. I don't know. I only wrote it. Don't ask me. The Car Crash 24-Hour-a-Day Multiple Newsgasm. That's what it's called. And if you're looking for the A to Z of 2018, by the way, I've stuck it in the back of it. If you follow me on Twitter and Facebook, then I'll point you in the right direction. Let's have a call in Nottingham. Hello, Paul.
Good evening, Nick.
Paul.
How are you?
Well, let's get the pleasantries out of the way before you start shouting at me. I'm fine, Paul. How are you?
I'm not going to shout. On the contrary, I've been listening to quite a few of your callers tonight,
yes. Mm-hmm.
And it's quite funny and interesting.
But?
What I don't get, from my own point of view, and I'm just going to say this because I'm sitting back and looking. I'm not criticising. I am sympathetic to everybody that wanted to remain in Europe. I don't think leavers get the same courtesy back, but... I don't understand why we're so panicky over food and medicines and stuff like that. And the reason I say
you
that... You
don't understand? Well, why don't you read something?
No, because...
Then you will understand.
No. I do need stuff, but I know you can also get it from anywhere else in the world. It's not just European countries that make it, produce it, and have it. Because if that was the case, then, to be fair, Canada would have been a mess for years. So would Japan, so would China. Because it's only in the last few years that they've actually done trade deals. I mean, it took the EU 7 years to do a trade deal with Canada.
Yes.
So we must be able to get all of this stuff from everywhere else in the world.
Well, Europe is not the only place that grows things. I mean, I'm sure Japan grows their own things, and they get what they don't grow there from places that are nearer than Europe, I would imagine.
So why should we be so worried about? I mean, let's be right. I know a lot of people saw that thing the other day on the news about all these retailers saying there's going to be shortages on the shelves and everything else.
Yeah, but what do they know?
How many of your... No, I'm only going to ask you this as a simple, fair question.
Go on.
How many of those retailers, CEOs and chief officers and everything else are Remainers? And how
what difference does that make?
Hang on, let me just explain something. How come you didn't see companies like Aldi and Tesco on that list? They're not panicking about food supplies.
Wait a minute. Just because they did not sign a letter does not mean to say they're not panicking or making plans for disaster.
No, but it doesn't mean that they are either.
Well, for God's
You've got to look different.
So you're dismissing the concerns of Sainsbury's, Asda, Marks and Spencer's, Waitrose, the Co-op, Lidl, McDonald's and KFC in favour of going with companies that haven't signed this message that may, and whose opinion on this you don't know.
I'm not really worried about McDonald's and KFC, to be fair.
Sainsbury's, Asda, Marks and Spencer's, Waitrose, the Co-op and Lidl.
No, Sainsbury's is owned by Asda, isn't it?
I don't believe that's... I don't think that's gone through.
It's not, it's the other way round.
Well, it's
sorry, not owned, they're in negotiations now,
exactly.
aren't they?
Yeah, well, what's that got to do with it?
All I'm saying is that at the end of the day, we've still got supermarkets. I don't understand why we all think that the world is going to collapse.
You keep saying, I don't understand, Paul, but that's because you haven't read anything about it. I don't understand particle physics, but that doesn't mean to say it's not a thing. That argument is of all of the arguments I keep hearing about Brexit from ardent Brexiteers, that argument is that I don't understand why, therefore it doesn't exist, is about the bottom of the barrel. What are you talking about? I don't understand why there should be any food shortages, therefore there won't be. I mean, can you actually hear yourself? I mean, it's really hard to maintain composure. Am I maintaining composure?
No.
Not really. It's difficult. It's very, very difficult doing this job.
Stop whining.
It is. It's difficult doing this job and maintaining politeness.
Be polite!
I'm trying. I don't understand why, therefore it won't happen. I bet he's still on the phone. Oh, he's still speaking. Paul, your argument is, I don't understand why, therefore it won't happen, isn't it?
No.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
You just said that.
Right. It doesn't make... what I don't understand, and I'm going to tell you this, I don't understand, right, is how, at the beginning of all this process, everybody said, nobody knows what's going to happen in the future, we've got no idea. We're still none the wiser. The situation...
Only if you fail to take on board any information in the past 2.5 years are you none the wiser, Paul.
Well, we haven't had that much information in the last 2.5 years. Oh, my God.
Well, you want it delivered to you on a plate?
No, I just want somebody to tell me the truth, and at the moment we're not getting that.
Well, you're not interested You can't handle the truth. Nobody's interested in the truth anymore. They just want to hear repeated back to them what they have believed, what they already believe. That's all anybody's interested in. They just want an echo. They decided, based on absolutely no knowledge of any kind whatsoever, to jump one way or the other. And since that date, you, Paul, personally, have failed to take on board any information. Not a jot. such that your argument is, I don't believe it will happen, or I don't know, it's worse, I don't understand why, therefore it won't happen. God. How can anybody dismiss Sainsbury's and Asda and Marks and Spencer's and Waitrose and the Co-op and Lidl and McDonald's and KFC, who all say the same thing? And you just dismissed all of those people by saying, I don't know why it would be the case. Does anybody need any further information that we are going in the wrong direction? That we are listening to the wrong people? We're listening to that guy. People are getting their ideas from, God, I've got absolutely no idea where. Lord Snooty and his chums. Jacob Rees-Mogg and all that lot. Or just some Russian troll video that has appeared on your Facebook site.
Affirmative.
God, Vladimir Putin must be absolutely... He must wake up laughing. Everything is going very well for Vladimir Putin. Boy. So anyway, this letter to MPs signed by the bosses from those firms, all of whom are experts in their chosen field and are actually working on a daily basis with this issue, and the ardent Brexiteer fundamentalist ultras just dismissed every single one of them as though they know nothing about what they're talking about, for crying out loud. The people who run Sainsbury's, Asda, Marks and Spencer's, Waitrose, the Co-op and Lidl, and your favourite place to dine out, McDonald's and KFC. None of those people know what they're talking about? None of them? Not one? Well, apparently not, because a fella on Question Time did the exact same thing as that fella just did. They're everywhere. We're surrounded. He said about that letter, about the issue of the shelves potentially being empty, major supermarkets warning that the shelves could be empty of fresh produce within days of Britain crashing out on March the 29th if no deal can be agreed. That's what they said, the people who run those supermarkets where we buy all our bloomin' food. He said, I think it's absolute rubbish, really. And the audience gave him a round of applause. Based on what? Based on them not wanting it to be true. God. He said, this is at Question Time, he says, there's a lot of talk about we won't get lettuces into the country, tomatoes and other produce. There's going to be disruption, there's no doubt about that. But in this country, we are resilient. We're resilient. No, we're not. Do we actually want to talk about resilience? I mean, he was just wrapping himself in the flag, and I can't bear to hear that again. Only once per show. He was wrapping himself in the flag and sprinkling the audience with fairy dust. If you believe, it'll be true. Fly away. He says, we're going to find a way around these problems. Really? Based on what? Based on no knowledge of any kind whatsoever. It's a belief. We're all believing in fairy tales now. If you want it to be true, it will be true. It's like we're all... It's like Peter Pan's personally come to visit all of us and we're all trying to grab Tinkerbell. He says... we have companies and corporations who have already found ways not to pay taxes in this country. Are you telling me they aren't going to find a way to get a few lettuce from Spain to England? Well, I think we probably eat more than a few. And of course they'll be able to, but they'll be taxed through the roof. You know what the tax on beef is, with WTO rules? 65%. 65%. That would make a very unhappy meal, wouldn't it? But people claim that they don't know what the problem is and they hadn't heard that it's going to cost more, therefore it won't. I'm really finding it hard to maintain an even disposition. I'm thinking about screaming. 0345 6060 973. I want to talk about the resilience part in a minute. But I keep getting interrupted by all these awful callers. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday and Saturday night at 10, Nick Abbott, LBC. It's 11:30, the news headlines with Zora Suleiman.
Heavy snow in Kent.
He is a very sick and dangerous man.
Yeah, sick and dangerous. But mostly sick. And dangerous. OK, we are a resilient country, said that bloke who was wrapping himself in the flag and, Britishness will see us through and all of that nonsense. A resilient country, and he got a round of applause for that on question time. Well, on that assertion that we are a resilient country, I direct your attention to the news. London City Airport is partly closed or completely closed? Have they given up the ghost entirely, or are they struggling manfully on? Womanfully on? Sexist? Workers are told to leave early tonight, as thousands were stuck in a blizzard on motorways, and the threat of dangerous black ice forming on the roads looms, and the severe weather shows no sign of ending. We're all going to die. So the A21 in Kent is completely at a standstill and has been for hours. 2,000 schools across the country serving 800,000 plus children were shut after doomsday snow caused chaos, with some areas getting up to a millimetre of snow. It's been a catastrophe. Rail commuters living in the southeast of London and Kent were told to travel earlier or later to avoid the busiest trains. After southeast trains implemented its winter weather timetable. This resulted in fewer services during rush hour. So they told workers to go home, and then they pulled the trains that they would go home on. On the roads, drivers were being told to avoid the M3 at all costs, as the motorway was impassable after being plunged into travel chaos from the snow bomb. Dozens of motorists were trapped between Winchester services and Junction 5 as there were 3 lorries jackknifed blocking the road both ways, with queues as far as Basingstoke, wherever that is. 2,000 schools across the country serving 800,000 plus children were shut after doomsday snow. I mean, if there's one thing that we've learned tonight, is that we need to learn more things. I mean, can we do with less education?
No.
Rail, people were told to avoid Basingstoke, which is actually excellent advice, which has nothing to do with the weather. No offence. Motorists abandoned their cars after being stuck in blizzards in Cornwall. Snowfall knocked out power for around 1,000 homes around Southampton. Flights across the south were cancelled, including from London's Heathrow. Bournemouth Airport and Bristol Airport were shut, which is astonishing. They got an airport in Bristol. Rail lines were closed. Snowfall and icy conditions caused widespread travel disruption after temperatures plummeted. It's just astonishing, ain't it? And this is after one perfectly ordinary day, not too cold winter's day. It snowed a little bit and the whole country collapsed like a felled tree. It was a few degrees below zero for most of us, and most of the country stopped working. Trains cancelled, flights grounded, schools shut, alerts issued. Stay indoors, they said. Death awaits for you outside.
Warning, warning.
Resilient? Us?
Negative.
We're about as resilient as single-ply toilet paper.
Disgusting.
But it gets worse because weather warnings have been issued running into tomorrow, with another 4 inches of snow possible in northern Scotland and 1.6 inches over the Yorkshire moors. 1.6 inches? And TV journalists abandoned their studios to show us the tragedy unfold over their shoulders as they reported on the ice-tastrophe and Snowmageddon. I mean, the white stuff almost came up to their ankles. You could see the painted lines on the roads that they were standing on through that thin veneer of snow. And just because morons can't drive and hurtle around like nothing bad's going to happen to them, you know, because they're special, and then they end up with their cars upside down, doesn't mean that it's a disaster out there. I mean, if that was the case, every day would be a disaster in the London borough of Streatham. Seriously, why does everybody drive like a complete lunatic when they go through Streatham? I mean, every time I go through Streatham, I steel myself, because I know that some berserk moron is going to come flying from out of nowhere and you know, defying the laws of physics. Streatham. And there's pictures on news sites of the destruction and the chaos caused by massive snows, one of which was supermarket shelves empty of produce. But that can't be, because that's just scaremongering. That's Project Fear. Empty shelves after a little light snowfall. Resilient, my eye. This country is as resilient as we are personally. I mean, we are financially resilient to the point of to the point at which we're not. It's exactly like it is in America. The people in the government workers in America were denied 1 month's paycheck, 1 month. And did they have the ability to ride that 1 month out?
No.
No. They were going to food banks, and they were going to charities, and they were going to loan sharks to get them through the month. And it's the same here. Nobody's got a safety net. We're not resilient. We're teetering on the edge of catastrophe with every minute of every day. And yet we're acting like, none of this is going to hurt us. Oh, it won't make never mind, because I believe. It's painful. Paul says, your last call of Vivian proves the notion that in some people a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. I don't think he had a little knowledge. Nick in Norfolk says, if we rely on the EU for our fresh produce, does that mean that all the produce picked picked on the farms by EU workers in this country is rotten? No, it's just not remotely enough to feed us, and it's I don't even know what we produce in this country anymore. I've got actually no idea, because almost everything you buy in the supermarket is from somewhere else. I mean, you really have to hunt high and low to find something that was grown here. Blimey, this one's been waiting a dog's age. Lewisham, hello, Barry.
Hi there.
Hello there.
Good evening. Hi there, Nick. I tried to get through to the other person.
Barry, please speak directly into the phone.
Oh, sorry. Are you right there now?
Better.
Right there?
Yes.
Oh, hello. Right, yeah. I managed to engage with someone who's quite stubborn, and on the issue of chicken, in fact, I tried to sort of bring it down to their level so they could understand how Brexit will affect them. Right, so after that KFC story, I spoke to the local chicken and chip shop man. Now, I don't know if he's a Lever or Remainer. He's Sri Lankan. Yeah, that's all I know. He's Sri Lankan, and he's spitting mad about Brexit because it's gonna ruin his business.
Huh. And now, how's it gonna ruin Sri Lankan's chicken and chips business?
Right. Well, he said that he gets the majority of his produce from Holland. All right. I thought, interesting. And then I thought about it. All the chicken.
That's probably part of the ingredients of a chicken pot pie. That's probably why he gets it from Holland.
Want to score some pot?
Pie.
Well, no, I looked up, and in fact, the majority. Right, imagine all of the chicken that's in the UK. Right, we have chickens in the UK.
Yes, we
have chicken farmers. We have chicken farmers.
Yep.
But there is not enough chicken to place on all those shelves. So we need to get a heck of a lot more.
Do you know how many chickens we actually chew through a year? I think it's a billion chickens. Not a million. I think it's a billion. That seems hard to believe, doesn't it? In fact, maybe it's not. Maybe it's hard to believe because it's not true. But I think it is.
Have you seen the number of chicken and chip shops around the place? I mean, they're literally everywhere.
I like chips, all over the place. And I like chicken.
Yeah, well, in moderation.
Yeah.
But so I did some research, as I do, and
research.
UK, yeah.
Does that mean does that mean that you have facts?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Barry. We're not interested in facts.
Sorry.
Can you just make something up and give it to us?
Okay. All right then. Just off the top of my hat, there's a report from Res Publica, right, and this is coming from Poultry News UK. They've basically
There's no such thing. Poultry News UK.
There really is. And
right then.
Yeah, at the moment they're advertising for the hen and egg competition for 2019.
Right.
Yeah, so
which comes first?
Well, that's a good question. Good question. Brexit comes first. That's going to sort it all out. We won't have any of those after, and that's the point, because after Brexit, we'll have tariffs put on of 30% on the chicken.
Well, tariffs on food are huge. WTO rules on food is through the roof.
Massive. And in addition to that, the UK side, all right, so the production on our side, the labour costs will go up because of the export of the movement of the people.
Yeah,
they won't be there anymore. So we'll have increased costs for our products, and we'll have increased costs for their products. So we as the consumer will only have increase. That's all we'll have.
Yes, but again, Barry, these are just facts, and I have to refer you back to the answer I gave some moments ago, which was that nobody is remotely interested in facts anymore.
No,
we're just making our own facts up off the top of our heads, and by magic they become reality.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think that the whole idea that you can give the UK public, or any public, the impression that they know best, and that they know better than everybody else, and that they've got the right to make this decision.
You tell people that, and they will grab that with both hands because they believe in their own specialness. I know I do.
But they do. But when people say, "Oh, are you calling the UK public stupid?" The answer should be, well, some of them are.
Yeah.
This is very simple.
I'll make a deal with you, ladies and gentlemen. If you stop saying stupid things, I'll stop thinking of you as stupid. How does that sound?
Yeah. There we go. It's a deal, isn't it?
All right. Thanks a lot, Barry. At least we're in agreement there. 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. By the way, the good news is that if you are hungry post-Brexit, at least you'll be able to snack on one of Meghan Sparkle's sex worker bananas. 0345 6060 973. Nick Abbott, Friday and Saturday night at 10, LBC.
It's my huge honour.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
Are you trying to tell me that this is your act?
Yes, this is all I've got. Charles in Bournemouth says, you are focusing on one dimension of Brexit. He says that is the short-term economic disruption. Well, I don't know what you mean. What do you mean by short-term? I mean, the short-term economic disruption of the financial crash is still with us. 12 years later, we're still trying to climb out of that hole, and we've got absolutely no chance, probably for the rest of our lives, of doing that. Short-term economic disruption. It's like throwing a lead weight to a drowning man. He says, we're leaving a failing, undemocratic political union. Okay, A, it's not failing, and B, it's not undemocratic. God, the amount of times I've heard that. People just hear one thing and then they just repeat it over and over and over and over and over again. Like a parrot. In what way is it undemocratic, for crying out loud? Oh, what's the point? He says, we can control immigration. We already can control immigration, Charles. We can do that already. Theresa May's got the ability to throw anybody out that she doesn't like the look of. Particularly from outside the EU. I mean, there's all sorts of rules and regulations about getting jobs and having a certain amount of money if you come from within the EU. But outside the EU, where we get more people than from within the EU, we can deny entry to anybody we like. But we don't. Now, just think why that might be. And please don't say that it's to drive down wages for the working man, because that hasn't happened. There's no evidence at all that overall wages decline with immigration. The reverse is actually true. Now, and let me stop you right there. If you personally have been affected negatively, because I had somebody last week who said, I was doing this job and somebody came along and they were Polish and they would do the job for less than I could. And therefore, I don't have a job anymore. Well, there's just so many issues around that. First of all, that somebody who speaks English as a second language can usurp you rather implies that you weren't very good at your job. Don't it? Not trying hard enough. I think there's a lot of that is that people just don't like competition. And and rather than just attack somebody from their own race for being smarter and harder working than them, it's much easier to identify a small group of others, people of, other than yourself, and say it's their fault. Because they come over here and they work harder than I do. Damn them. Anyway, this email goes on. Blimey, it's a long email. He says, we can control immigration and select the best people to come into the country. Well, what do you mean by that? People that will pull tubers out the ground for us, people who will clean our offices overnight. Is that what you're talking about? People who will be security on buildings 24 hours a day. Is that who you're talking about? The best people. Are you talking about people who will clean up our various oozings from hospital wards? Are those what you're talking about? Carers? Or are you talking about traffic wardens? What do you mean, best people? He says, we will have control of our money. Like we don't have that already. He says, we'll have control of our budget. Our budget won't be rejected by the EU. That's not likely. That's very unlikely. He says 17.4 million people aren't stupid. Agreed. But a lot of them are, because a lot of people are stupid. Trust me, I've met people and I'm not keen. We might as well get a dog to run the country. I mean, it couldn't be worse, could it? Just as long as it's not one of those yappy dogs. 0345 6060 973. What kind of a dog would Theresa May be, by the way? What kind of a dog would Boris Johnson be? Boris Johnson would be a Dulux shaggy dog. What do they call them? What do they call those Dulux shaggy dogs? I bet my glamorous assistant knows.
I don't.
No, he doesn't know. I'm really glad that you came in today. You've been a huge boon for this show. What kind of dog would Jacob Rees-Mogg be? 0345 6060 973. A highly stressed one, I would imagine. I think Jacob Rees-Mogg would be a yappy dog. Let's have a call in Islington. Lisa Marie.
Hi, Nick. I thought you'd come to me next.
You're very loud, very loud. Back off the phone just a bit, Lisa Marie.
Okay. All right, one sec. Is that better?
Better.
Right, good. Right, now I'm going to make this call better than my first call with you, because that went a bit... That was a bit embarrassing. I listened back. So, one thing I'm not going to do, I'm not going to repeat, like everyone's been repeating the same thing for years, 2.5 years. I'm not going to do that. That's good. But you are my fave, so please be kind to me.
Okay, then. No guarantees. Right. Go on.
No, no guarantees, no guarantees. So, initially, I was thinking about how the bunch of nincompoops that we've got running the country.
Yes.
And what the goodness, geez, crying out loud, what are they doing? The thing is, Nick, I'm thinking that you've got businesses, okay, like big businesses. And big businesses will, let's just say a new business, they're going into a new light, they've got a new light, a new field or whatever, and there's going to be teething problems, okay? So you've got all the top people, they know that they're going to make all the right decisions and they're going to make some really good money or whatever. They're business people, and there's going to be teething problems. I mean, why the hell have we got a government full of people that don't seem to be able to? They just seem to be incompetent. They don't seem to be able to do anything that they're supposed to be doing for the country. I mean, I just think we're in 2019 and we got the government. Oh, by the way, you need to walk around to make sure the lights don't go out.
I know, I've done that. Thanks a lot.
Have you done it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Nick, every time you say that.
I am way ahead of schedule.
You're way ahead.
Yes.
Excellent, that's good. So, anyway, like I said, I think it should be easier, and I just think people in that sort of area, you know, the government and all the greedy beggars who want to make money off Brexit or Remain, and I just think that they're just making it harder because they want what they want, and it's not got nothing to do with us. We're just sitting there like us poor dopes, as you say. We've got nothing to do with it. You know, I mean,
I suspect that most of the people that are talking the loudest aren't remotely interested in what's best for the country. They're just working for what's best for them personally.
Of course they are. Yeah. And that's it, and that's a human nature.
Well, yes, it is, but we don't pay them the big money to just pay attention to their human nature, to act on their personal instincts. We pay them to act in our best interests.
Yeah. Help! We're drowning down here.
Why can't they do something to help us? Exactly.
Nick, this is what I was going to say. Someone said to me the other day. He said, but what about blah, blah? I said, that's great immigration, it's fab. But 5, 10 years, I've got a 9-year-old, 5, 10 years, 15 years down the line, if it continues, what, the government, are they going to get off their backside and build houses? No. Are they going to get off their backside and build schools and affordable travel? Like,
well, if recent history is anything to go by, then the answer is almost certainly no, definitely not. I mean, how long do we have to wait till they take action? I mean, the lights are about to go out in this country. We're on our knees begging China to come and build us a nuclear power station, for crying out loud. All the while, our security services are saying,
"Warning, warning!
Don't let China anywhere near it." That's how desperate we are. The security services say China shouldn't even be allowed in charge of a telephone. and we want them to build our next generation of nuclear power stations. I mean, if that doesn't give you an indication that something is wrong at the top, then I don't know what does. Yeah, thanks a lot, Lisa Marie. 0345 6060 973. Friday and Saturday.
I care what this guy thinks.
No!
Meghan Sparkles wrote messages of support to sex workers on bananas.
Disgusting.
Couldn't she have picked another fruit? 0345 606. And is she absolutely sure that they were really bananas? Simon in Feltham says, let's get one thing straight. You are not qualified to comment. You are a radio presenter. You have your own opinions, but that's it. It is your own opinions. You do not have a degree in economics, so don't comment until it's happened. When it's happened, then you can say, I told you so, but until then, keep stum. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait that long. I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. Simon in Feltham, what are you talking about? Are you out of your mind? Everybody is qualified to comment. There are no such things as facts anymore. We're all making up our own facts. Everybody's got an alternative fact.
Affirmative.
I'm not qualified to comment as I'm a radio presenter, and I've got to have a degree in economics. We're dismissing the opinions of people who have degrees in economics. Hell, we're dismissing the opinion of the person that runs the Bank of England, for crying out loud. Exactly how many qualifications do I have to have before I can agree with those that have more education than I? Because the number of people who actually run things that are for us crashing out with no deal are vanishingly small compared to those who are freaking out at the prospect. Let's get one thing straight. You're not qualified to comment. You're a radio presenter. I comment for a living. This is what I do. I know it's hard to believe, but this is what I actually do for a living. Incredible, I know. Paul says, so after Brexit kicks in, are you going to live in an independent Scotland or of a reunited Ireland? Maybe it means or. So after Brexit kicks in, are you going to live in an independent Scotland or a reunited Ireland? Neither? What are you talking about? But it makes as much sense as anything else anyone said on this show, including me. Danny in Tottenham says, I love it when foolish Brexiteers threaten not to vote again if Brexit is cancelled. For that reason alone, Article 50 should be withdrawn. Well, for that reason alone, we are still not missing you, David Cameron.
Bye-bye.
In case you were wondering. Don't rush back, not on our account. You'll be able to find David Cameron. He's in the shed, where they keep the tools. Bill says, on our resilience, didn't Kipling say something like, to be born British is to be dealt the best hand in the world? Didn't he mean that through our character we shall once again emerge first among nations and take our rightful place in the world? I see, I don't know whether you've been sarcastic or not. I hope so. Gosh, I do hope so. Take our rightful place in the world, first among nations. No, I can't hear that again. That's what was... I do believe that's what was sold. That's the fantasy fairy story that was sold to people who were really, really eager to believe it. Oh, finally we'll be out from underneath the auspices of the evil European superstate, and then we will bestride the world just as we used to. We'll buy in some pink in order that we might colour the map that shade. Jules says, never mind the free market, at this rate we'll be lucky to get the flea market. Sounds like a listener with material. Cork. Hello, Derek.
Hi.
Derek.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I didn't hear you, just cut in there a second. I find you very refreshing.
Oh.
And you're a tonic.
Wasn't expecting
James
that.
O'Brien.
Okay, then.
You know what I mean? You are straight down the middle. You challenge the callers. I find that the Brexiteers, they're brainwashed. As in, it's more like a cult.
I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, we're all brainwashed to a certain extent, but I think that Brexit, for some people, has become like a cult. Yeah, I would say religion, but cult. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's believe, and it's nostalgia as well.
It's faith. It's exactly what it is. It's faith. It is like a religion, but as there's not enough of them, we'll just call it a cult.
Yeah, but I'm just amazed that they say the same thing over and over again. Yeah. You heard what Jeremy Clarkson said.
Did I?
Did you? No?
Okay. What Jeremy Clarkson said? Well, what among the billions of things that has poured out of his mouth are you referring?
Yeah, they were, thinking about if they had a people's vote, they would bring Jeremy Clarkson in front as in how good Europe is. But he said he was interviewed on LBC, and then he was saying, oh, it's a disgrace with Brexit and all this, and the only reason Brexit got through was because of all those coffin dodgers.
Well, see, that's just the sort of rude and offensive thing that has made him a millionaire.
Yes, exactly. But you know what I mean? But, yeah, so...
You see, I don't think that that's entirely true. I think that people were sold a lie. People were sold a lie by various oily, shady individuals with using dodgy Russian money and all sorts of other...
propaganda,
finagling ways,
the media,
and people's internet was essentially hijacked by the Russians, amongst other actors, and people who may or may not have been working with the Russians in America. And it wasn't a democratic vote at all. It was an attack on our democracy, which seems to have won. They seem to have won.
Nick, if that was an election, would it be rerun?
Well,
that's
this is something that we're going to have to really grapple with in the future, because they know that. I mean, these people who are trying to usurp democracy have done so successfully in two major votes, both in this country and in America. There doesn't seem to be any doubt about that among anybody apart from Donald Bloomin' Trump and some people that are allied to his cause. They know that they can win with this method. It's just I don't think the full gravity of it has come to bear on the people that should do something about it. Theresa May has said that Russia had some sort of an undetermined amount of influence on the Brexit vote, but she is reluctant to look into it any further for fear of what she might find.
And then there's the criminal, I don't know, organisation looking into it as well, and we've heard nothing about it. Wasn't there some organisation, criminal, checking with whatever his name is?
Well, on both sides, don't mention any names, but on both sides of the Atlantic, the evidence is mounted up to be incontrovertible that the Russians and some very shady billionaires on both sides affected the outcome of both the general election in America and the Brexit referendum in this country. The government knows that. It's already said that. And the security services know that, both here and in America. Everybody seems to be agreed, but nobody is inclined to do anything about it, which is just astonishing, really, considering that this is the thing that is crippling the country. And we've got no idea what might happen next, other than we can be pretty sure that it won't be great, at least in the short term.
But Ireland will be screwed as well, thanks to you.
Well, the whole of Europe will be screwed, and if Vladimir Putin had written this down as a plan, it could not be working any better.
I know. But one question.
Yes.
Would it be possible for the Irish government to sue the British government for... I'm just wondering.
I don't know. Somebody will test that theory, no doubt. All right. Thanks a lot, Derek. Cheers, mate. 0345 6060 973. Paul says, Brexit has driven me round a bend. Correct me if I'm wrong, but did Mrs May agree to amend which effectively says her withdrawal deal is rubbish? Correct me if I'm wrong, but did Mrs May agree to an amendment which effectively says her withdrawal deal is rubbish? I'm really looking forward to being the sick man of Europe again, or did these people forget that period too? That was our glorious past. That was in the 1970s when we were the sick man of Europe. But if you ask people about that period, they will look back wistfully, as though those were the good old days. And the reason for that is because their knees used to work in the 1970s, and there was actually an outside chance of them having sex again.
Disgusting.
That's why they look back on that period so wistfully, is because that's when they were young. 0345 6060 973. Let me just remind you about my podcast. I do a podcast a week. It lasts for about a half an hour. I put some of my favourite calls on the end of the podcast and fill the rest of it up with titillation. I think you'll be amused. It's called the Nick Abbot Habit. If you're an Apple person, then the Global Player app will have the podcast section. I don't think it's on the Android. At least it isn't on my phone or any other phone that I've tried. But if that is the case and you can't find it on the Global Player app, then you can find it wherever they give away excellent podcasts. The Nick Abbot Habit. Ask for it by name.
This is LBC.
So I think
973.
And I can't stand him.
Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. Here's calling Southgate. Hello, Michael.
Oh, hello, Nick. I've been enjoying the talk, actually. It's great. I want to talk to you about the Brexit scam, if I can.
Scam?
I used to work in a bank. Oh, it's a scam. The Brexit thing's a huge scam. I'll be very brief. Have you noticed, when you look at Brexit, people, like big manufacturers, people who make things or do things like supermarkets or car factories don't want it because it interrupts the supply chains. But people who have finance capital, like hedge funds, do want Brexit. They want it a lot. You can see the division of the Tory party, you know. The way this works is that if you've got a hedge fund and you've got a lot of money and you don't have sterling, so you've moved into the euro or something, onto dollars, if you crash the economy and you crash the currency, then what happens is you can buy UK assets at a double discount. So if I'm going to buy Buckingham Palace, I could have paid 100 million for it a while back, but suddenly I have to pay 50 million for it. And I also get the currency discount. So what happens is, if you're a hedge fund, and if you've got influence of the Conservative Party or any party you like, if you crash the economy, you get this, the national cake gets smaller, but you get more of it.
Yeah, well, apart from that is true, but it's worse than that, because if you are a hedge fund, you can actually bet against the pound.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
can bet that the pound will go down. So I think what we got here are money men who are trying to influence the direction of the country in order that they can cash in the short term, which to me is treasonous. I mean, I think that should be a lock-upable offence.
I think there should be things like owning media. I think in certain countries in Europe, you can't, for example, own a newspaper and not be a resident in that country. I think that should be, and that's an issue. I know it's a problem with the internet and everything else, but the idea that you're influencing people without it being a resident, and if you're promoting a certain political party, but you're not actually there to face the consequences of the ideas you're promoting for your media.
And paying personal taxes in this country. That should be the law in this country.
Absolutely. And the whole thing, coming back to people, though, I used to work in a bank, you'll never guess, but I've now been surprised.
No, he's a banker.
No, I'm not now. It's 25 years ago. But I retrained as a teacher. I had a real job. But there's something that really strikes me when I go around Europe and I go around Britain and America, and I'll tell you what it is, I've often thought about this, is that because neither British people nor American people have experienced real privation like they haven't. If you think about, if you're a Frenchman or a Belgian or a Netherlander, you've experienced, or you've heard your parents, your grandparents talk about starvation, foreign military occupation, total catastrophe.
Yes.
And one thing that divides us, obviously, is the 18 months, is we've never, although we had, massive bomb damage, we've never experienced total, utter humiliation at the hands of a foreign military power, neither of the United States. No matter how bad things have been, you're not sort of having to sell your sister to somebody to get a tin of baked beans or something else. And this kind of nightmare is what, in many ways, I think, unites the Europeans and makes us different. We don't fully, when that guy was talking to you, I get the guy about half an hour ago, the Liverpudlian guy, the guy you said was not very bright. And he kept going on.
Well, that doesn't sound like something I'd say.
I don't understand guy. The guy, I don't know.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I was listening to him. He's typical of millions, really, because he had no idea of a society or a situation where there could be no food. It was unimaginable to him.
Yes, so this is the problem that people have. Yeah. This is my problem with people's argument, is that they say that because they feel rather, that because it has not happened in the past, then it cannot possibly happen in the future.
Yeah, but if you said that to a Dutch guy whose grandmother talks about being in Holland at the end of the war, and you said to him, if this happened, there'll be a danger of starvation, it would click. It would just be something that he would be aware of culturally as a possibility. He wouldn't just think, this is impossible, it's like Martians, us starving, us being hungry, dear oh dear, It's this sense of invulnerability I think we have in the English-speaking world, really.
Yeah, you might be right, but we also are, and I don't know whether this is unique to us or whether other countries' residents feel this way about their own country, but we do seem to be convinced of our own exceptionalism.
Yes. Actually, coming on, as you were talking, I was thinking there's also a thing, I don't think this Brexit thing can actually happen, because I think there's a kind of culture thing in it, which the government, you can see May going back again to Brussels. And I think this is because the truth of the matter is the Good Friday Agreement, they can't have this border in Ireland. This will only work. You can't have a border that isn't a border. It's like a square circle. It's not possible.
Well, the Brexiteer ultras are saying that we will invent something, but they're proposing some sort of technological solution that doesn't exist. And Europe says it doesn't exist, and Theresa May herself has said it doesn't exist over and over and over again, and no such thing could possibly work. That's what she said again and again.
Well, you're right, and I think there's a kind of blindness about it. I think the awful truth is, this thing of taking back control, the reality is the United Kingdom is now run by Ireland, in effect. And you've seen Theresa May keeps going back to Brussels. She's been all round Europe asking people if they wouldn't mind bullying the Irish. At one particular point, Rees-Mogg said, we're going to stick these enormous tariffs on Irish beef and we'll ruin their economy.
Yeah.
The fact is that Ireland has got us by the proverbials completely. And the whole taking back control thing is a completely...
Yes, but it's not Ireland, it's the European Union sticking up for their member, which is Ireland. That's
And
the
more
whole
than that-
point of being in the EU. You're
Yeah.
part of a gang.
1,000 times, yes, and even more so. That deal, that Good Friday Agreement, carries the prestige of the United States. It was negotiated by Senator, George Mitchell. I think it was George Mitchell Minstrel, but George Mitchell. It's got the prestige of the United States attached to the GFA, underlining it. And incidentally, an awful lot of Americans see themselves of Irish descent. It has terrific strength behind it in all sorts of political and cultural areas. It's a very difficult thing just to get rid of the GFA. They can't just... I'm sure they'd like to throw it in the bin, but they can't. They're completely stuck.
On an issue that didn't occur to anybody before the referendum.
Well, you're right, and you're not, because people said this in 2016, but basically they were very arrogant. They said, well, the whole subtext in the papers was, if we go and see the big boys and the Germans and the French, we'll do a deal with them, and the Irish will just get in line. They'll just, it was a kind of post-imperial sort of attitude.
Well, yes, exactly.
And suddenly the Irish, bless them, have got them completely by the nudges. I mean, they cannot budge. It must be utterly humiliating for very right-wing Conservatives to be talking about, taking back control, and 6 million people south of the border have absolutely got, we're stuffed.
Yes, but only because they have the might and the heft of the organisation that we seem determined to leave in order to bob around on our lonesome on the sea, desperate for somebody in the White House to do us a favour.
Well, listen, when we're all drinking out of jam jars and begging, we'll still be taking back control. That's what we've got to look forward to.
Well, I will look forward to that. Thanks very much, Michael. Cheers, mate. 034. I think the people in Hoxton are already drinking out of jam jars, aren't they? I think that's what cocktails come in these days. It's sophisticated. Chris says levers don't eat vegetables, so they won't miss them. That's why they've got... that's why they've got brain rot. You should volunteer yourself as a panellist on Question Time as an antidote to the party stooges. I will not. Levers have brain rot. It's not me saying that, that's Chris saying that. Hey, Chris.
Be polite.
Edward says, next time you have a Brexiteer on the line who claims greater economic knowledge than the Governor of the Bank of England, can you ask them to provide an explanation of endogenous growth theory? And if they fail to do so, please to save us time by terminating the call without further delay. He wants me to terminate them.
Affirmative.
And Anne says, I have decided that I don't believe in experts such as meteorologists anymore. I believe it will be a fantastic summer day tomorrow. A forecast of snow is just fear-mongering. I know this because it's what I want. Well, I can't wait for that. I'm going to pull on my mankini in preparation.
Disgusting.
0345 6060 973. About the weather, by the way. How is this country? I mean, how do we get by on a daily basis? A little bit of light weather, and the entire country falls on its face. People are being dug out of their cars. Gritters. The message from the authorities is gritters are going to be sent out, and they'll try to keep the major routes open. Other countries have gritters, have snowplows going through that create 15 feet of snow on either side of the road, and they still drive down them. I mean, there's just the lightest dusting. You see more snow backstage at Oasis. Lynn in Stockport says, just to confirm what that recent caller said, I'm already planning to go panic buying 2 weeks before no deal. Well, why wait? I've decided to panic now. Save time later. Let's see if I can squeeze in a call in Dartford. John.
Hi, mate. You all right?
Yes, good, thanks.
Yeah, good. It's Nick. It's ridiculous, mate. I work for a big bakery company. I'll name it. It's Hovis, right?
Without mentioning any names, Hovis. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. But the price has gone up, and people think we can make our own bread. Where do you think our flour comes from?
Make our own bread. People don't even make their own meals, never mind about make their own bread.
Do you know what I mean, mate? Do you know what I mean? It's just, we get flour from Russia and...
do we?
North America. Yeah, we do. Well, you don't know that. We get ingredients from Italy, and it's everything's imported. We can't make our own bread, mate. I'm sorry. People think, yeah, we're self-sufficient. Yeah, it's great on our back garden. What is wrong with these people? Seriously.
I think they. I think it's that they want it to be okay, so they've become convinced that all that is required is that you believe, and it will be so.
I was talking to my dad a couple of days ago. My dad grew up during the Second World War. He was fucking awful. I didn't swear there. It's awful afterwards. It was 11 during the rest of it. It's awful. Why would anybody want to go back to that?
I think you're talking about the good old days, John.
Yeah, he said it wasn't. Even the 50s wasn't good old days, you know. It's just, what is wrong with people over here?
Well, that should be the topic from now until the end of time. I've only got a 3-hour show, John, so I wouldn't be able to cover that.
I'm so sorry for that, but honestly,
leave it with me.
It's just ridiculous.
Well, thanks
what people are talking about. People are talking about don't know. They don't know. They think, we can self-sufficient for apples and that. So, no, we can't. We can't.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot for the bad news, John. Cheers, mate. And we appreciate our breakfast toast in the morning. We're very, very grateful. 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. We appreciate the toast.
Thank you.
Oh, look, it's 12:30. The news headlines on LBC with Zora Suleiman.
Wintry showers are expected.
And he's a great guy, and he's an honest guy.
Thanks a lot, Donny. You are the worst. I mean, does anybody believe that nonsense about America is going to restart the arms race because the Russians have been disrespectful? It seems to the ignorant outsider, me, that America is a socialist construct to take money from the many and give it to the industrial military machine. I mean, just follow the cash. That's where it's all going. Dali says, great show and I love your podcasts. In particular, the angry callers part. The vegan lady was short but hilarious. I definitely recommend it. The vegan lady, she was great. Yeah, I stick some of my favourite calls from this show on the end of my podcasts. There's one out every week. It's called the Nick Abbot Habit. You'll find it on the internet. And the vegan lady was really good. I'm very angry, she said. And then explained why. To much hilarity all round. Here's call in Shepperton. Hello, Richard.
Hello, Nick. Good evening. Just first of all say, I do enjoy your show.
But?
You handle it very, very well.
But?
The only thing I would say is I think you are being a bit disingenuous about Europe and the EU.
Yes.
And my point is that, if you look at some of the facts of where Europe is at the moment...
Facts? No one is remotely interested in facts.
I understand that sometimes facts are not pleasant and palatable, but, if you just take a few countries, Germany's almost into recession, France is rioting.
France, wait, hang on a moment. France isn't rioting. A few people were rioting in Paris. That's not France is rioting.
Well, they're almost a state of emergency, but apart from that,
not
yes,
really.
Okay, I'll
state of emergency? No.
Well, I think Paris was pretty much in lockdown. That would be a pretty much state of emergency.
In lockdown? I don't think so. But let's not get bogged down in. Let's not get bogged down in detail. Paris is still there, and so is France.
Hungary building a bigger wall than Trump can even afford. You've got Italy that's absolutely in battles with the EU Commission about their budget.
Yeah, with good reason.
I'm not even going to talk about Greece and what they did to them.
Well, let's talk about us. How are we doing?
Well, what I'm saying is that the EU isn't this land of milk and honey.
Well, of course it isn't. But where is?
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is that you have to look in the bigger picture. It's not just about being comfortable and no change is comfortable. There is always going to be change, and I had to applaud from my seat in the armchair. That guy yesterday said we're quite a resilient nation.
Oh God!
And we'll find ways around things.
That is just fantastical thinking. That's just wishing it will be true. We're resilient people. What on earth are you talking about?
No, that wasn't my point. I was saying about that there will be ways around this.
How do you know?
Not just from the UK. Europe will find ways around this. Do you honestly think that all of that £20 billion of fresh produce that Spain sends us every year, they're going to allow to rot in the fields?
Again, this is the kind of thing. This is exactly the kind of thinking that we could go right back to the beginning. You can listen to David Davis and Jacob Rees-Mogg and all those people who are always saying the German manufacturing businesses won't allow us to get a bad deal, and everything that we want will come to pass because BMW won't allow the EU to treat us badly, and everything's going to be fine.
Nick,
and none of that's true.
Forget BMW. Just for a second, stop thinking about the cliches. Think about the bigger picture.
It's not cliches, it's hundreds of thousands of jobs, Richard.
Well, absolutely. But where are these jobs? They're all over Europe. So isn't there a vested interest that some sanity will prevail? Don't get me wrong. We have some idiot politicians in this country, right? But so does Europe. And you know,
is that supposed to make me feel better?
No, it's not, but it's the reality of where we are. We get the politicians we deserve. We get Diane Abbott, for heaven's sake. I mean, she can't even hold a sentence.
Okay, but this is irrelevant to what you're talking about. You're saying that, your assertion is that Europe is failing. It's a disaster, economically and socially, and we would be better off out. But there's no evidence to suggest that that's true. And there's equally no evidence to suggest that even if we were staying in, we would be better off than France and Germany, for instance, because at the moment we're not. They are doing better than we are.
Yeah, but you've assumed that I want to leave. That you should have asked me, and I would have said. But
it doesn't matter whether you want to or not. You were making the case to leave.
No, I'm not making.
Yeah, you were.
Case. What I'm saying is you've got to look at the bigger picture. That's what I actually said. I didn't say whether I think we should leave or whether we should stay.
Well, then then either you're not explaining yourself well, or I'm lacking in comprehension, because it sounded like you were making the case to leave to me. I got to go, Richard. 0345 6060 973. Aggie says, "What utter tosh!" Exclamation mark, like she's shouting at me. She says, "I have wanted to leave the EU for years and years, way before all the propaganda. Neither the Russians nor anyone else had any influence on my decision. It was because so many people wanted out that Cameron allowed the referendum. It was the only good decision that he made." Okay, well, from the beginning, what as a tosh? I can't argue with that. I've wanted to leave the EU for years and years. Why, though? Way before all the propaganda. But what led you to come to that conclusion, Aggie, apart from the propaganda? And as for neither the Russians nor anybody else had any influence on my decision, well, that's a pretty bold statement. How do you know? That's like saying that, all those adverts for Coca-Cola had absolutely no bearing on my decision to go out and buy some, Coca-Cola. I mean, if advertising had no influence on anybody's decisions, then there wouldn't be any. Lewis in St Albans says, you are certainly not helping by calling Brexit voters cult followers. Not helpful. Helpful. Helpful? Right, so the problems that are besetting this nation are my fault. I'm just saying that there's a lot of people who are adamant that Brexit is the right way based on no knowledge, no personal knowledge of any kind whatsoever. It's like a faith. It's like a religion. And as there's not enough of them, it's going to have to be a cult then. Helpful. What on earth does that mean? Oh, God, the lights have gone out. See, that's God giving me a sign that I'm not being helpful.
Affirmative.
Paul says everyone else is going to get the blame for Brexit apart from those who voted for it or funded it. Yeah, well, I suspect that is true. And whatever the consequences are, let's assume that at least some of them will be negative. Whatever they are, will not be blamed on Brexit. If house prices go down and their food prices go up and unemployment rises and our horizons are foreshortened, none of that's going to be blamed on Brexit by the people that voted for Brexit. It'll all be something else. It'll be, Europe is actively working against our best interests. Or it's because Donald Trump didn't get to build his wall. Or it'll be Hillary's emails or something like that.
I'm building a wall, okay?
Yeah, you're not building a wall, Donny. No one's going to allow you to build your stupid wall. which wouldn't work even if you did build it. Let's have Barnett. Hello, John.
Hello, Nick. Yeah. How old are you, Nick?
How old am I?
Yeah.
Is that relevant?
Yeah, it is, yes.
How old are you, John?
I'm a lot older than you, son. I'll tell you what makes me laugh about you.
Well, how old are you?
I'm 74 years
74 years old.
Right,
you made it, but only just.
Listen, Snowflake. Listen, in the 60s, we run the world. We used to... during the 60s...
In the 60s, we ran the world.
The world.
No, but go on.
The greatest country in the world. And also...
0345 6060 973. My glamorous says you got rid of him, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, okay. Well, he said something you shouldn't oughta. You can text 84850, email nick@lbc.co.uk, and if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. I'm glad he swore right at the beginning, and I didn't have to sit here and listen to him for a good long while. If you can just do your swearing right at the beginning, then I can get rid of you straight away. The reason that you didn't hear it, by the way, is because we run a delay here. We're not actually live. There's about 7 seconds between what happens in this studio and then it going out on the air, which is which gives us the opportunity to erase people who disobey the rules, and we erase them with great vengeance. Jim says, we're so resilient that after 8 years of austerity, we threw our toys out of the pram and blamed everything on Europe. It's been more than 8 years of austerity. It's been a really, really long time, and we haven't got... it's not worked. It's singularly not worked. I mean, I know it's a bit late in the day to bring up this topic, and I'm not throwing it out for your calls, but it does seem a bit of a desperate strait, doesn't it? After all this period of austerity, after all those policemen that got fired, it was like 20% of police persons got fired because we couldn't afford them. And we couldn't afford to build hospitals, and we couldn't afford to build the GP surgeries, and we couldn't afford hospital beds, and we couldn't afford doctors, and we couldn't afford to fill the potholes in the road, and we couldn't afford carers, and we couldn't afford schools, and we couldn't afford anything in this country. Holy macaroni, parents were being asked to buy their own school equipment, is how poor we are. And after all of that austerity, which is a really bland word for such widespread misery. After all of that, we still haven't inched forward even 1 inch in a positive direction. We're still piling on the debt every second of every day. So we still haven't. We haven't even started to climb out that hole. We're still digging that hole. And people seem blithely insouciant about digging it some more. Who cares? We're British. We'll get through this. And guys like that last one, God, I'm really glad that he swore right at the beginning of that phone call, because if I had to sit here and listen to that for just 10 more seconds, I'd have my head would have exploded. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday and Saturday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
Coming up at 1 on LBC. LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet @LBC. Text 84850.
Come on, we're running late.
Here's a call in beautiful downtown Brighton. Hello, Laurie.
Hi, Nick A.
Laurie.
See, I should have left. I knew I should have left and emigrated about 7 years ago, and prior to that, about 23 years ago. Oh, my God, the people over here are nuts. I mean, I'm an old lady. I am an old lady. I'm just pushing 70.
70 years
and
old.
You think the 60s and you think the 60s and the 70s were cool? Don't you remember the corn crisis, the bread crisis, where we all queued up half a mile down the road?
Well, I remember when there was dead people piled up in the road because the dead people digging people.
Oh my God!
Were on strike.
Yeah.
What are they called? You know, the people.
Oh, you talking about the miners? No. Which one? What are you talking about?
You know, the grave diggers. They were. I'm sure that dead people were piling up in Leicester Square because the grave diggers were on strike, something like that. And then people shaking buckets to put the miners, all of that lot. And the 3-day week and the lights going out and holy macaroni. The only thing that was good about the 1970s was music.
Rock and roll! Absolutely. And that was the only good thing. The worst things were queuing up. I don't understand how people can't remember what we were doing, queuing up for bread, for cereal, having to get...
I refer you to the theory I gave some moments ago, which was that people imagine that the 60s and the 70s, or the 50s, or the 40s even, were great, great periods because that's when they were young.
No, it was... Well, I was young too. But it was cold, it was wet, it was damp, we were hungry, we had lots of dark nights and lots of blackness. Just switch parts of the country off just for a couple of days, just for 48 hours, and let them wake up to no bread for 2 weeks and see how they panic, see how they panic and how they cheat. I actually had neighbours come up to me that wanted to borrow my children in 77 and 78 so they could take them to the shops and claim that they were their children to get an extra loaf of bread.
They were giving away loaves of bread to children?
No, you had to queue up for loaves of bread, and to prove that you had enough children to get the bread, you had to take your child benefit book.
Really?
To prove that your children were your children.
I don't remember any of that. But then I was a child at the time, so I probably wasn't very interested.
Well, it absolutely happened.
Right.
And 2 of my neighbours asked if they could borrow my 2 youngest children, even though they weren't exactly the same skin colour, so they could say that they could get an extra loaf of bread.
Right,
That's how crazy it was.
I'll go to the foot of our stairs. And you could have gone to Australia, and you didn't.
And I didn't. Well, I could have gone to New Zealand as well.
Right.
And Canada. I still had the option for Canada. Oh, my goodness. It wasn't a great time, guys. Come on. Be honest. It was bloody tough, and we had all the blackouts and everything.
Yeah, we were the sick. Yeah, this country was the sick man of Europe before we joined the evil European overlords of the EU. Yeah, I remember that.
Mrs. May is a pen pusher that pushes F1 and enter. and hopes that if she keeps holding on to her little power seat, it's not to do with money, it's to do with her power and her little underlings underneath her, and hoping that we get somewhere. And if she thinks if she can hold on and hold on and hold on, for Christ's sake, what's the matter with our country? Take her backside out and let's get something done for real.
All right, thanks a lot, Laurie. She's very, very upset. Yeah, no, I don't remember that queuing for bread because, in the 60s and 70s, because I was a child in the 1960s, so I was probably more occupied getting high off plasticine fumes.
Groovy.
The aroma of Play-Doh.
Yowza.
Tasted good, too. Let's have a call in... Who's been waiting the longest? Be perfectly fair about this. Southall. Hello, Robert.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, thanks.
I just, I'm a leaver, and, I really hate all this talk because, I really talk in simple terms, don't get wound up, and we were never going to get a deal with these people, and I just wanted to say that...
But we do have a deal. We do have a deal with these people. They've given us a deal. In what way is it a rotten deal?
You know what, I just wanted to explain it to you. You wanted facts. A lorry driver told me 30 years ago how he used to do a drive and get paid to stay in a hotel for the night. And then suddenly we had European drivers and, hey, they can sleep in their cabs.
Yeah.
Quality of life, rock bottom. Then we had Cadbury's, we had and all I was going to say...
that has nothing to do with the EU, Cadbury's.
It does. Now listen...
It does not have anything to do with the EU, Cadbury's.
No, hear me out. It is the financial global business of
Oh, my God. It's an evil bunch of dark-suited ne'er-do-wells who run the country from inside a hollowed-out volcano.
In Europe, where are you going to... If you were going to build a factory or anything, or an industry, where would you go?
Germany.
Where would you go if you were a business?
Germany.
Why?
Well, because they make excellent things that people all over the world want to buy. That's why.
Why did Cadbury's go to Poland?
Because they were bought by an American company who aren't remotely interested about what happens or does not happen in this country.
You know what? And there was no EU protection for the UK workers.
Well, why? On the one hand, you decry the European Union protecting their own interests, and on the other hand, you suggest that they should be doing more to protect their own interests.
That they failed.
Pick one, Robert.
UK business. The UK's been abused all this time.
Oh,
you know what?
God, yeah, okay, we've been abused. Well, you know what? I think we like it. It's just excruciating, Robert. What are you talking about? This sense of victimhood. Oh, the reason that we, in general, and me personally, haven't got on in life is because some amorphous outside body is working against me. It's the deep state, or globalism, or for crying out loud. And that things used to be different, but now they're not. People used to have excellent careers, going and knocking bits of coal out of the ground, and now they don't have that anymore. Things have changed, and all change is bad. Most change has happened because of us consumers. We consumers are not ethical in our choices. We do not stand up for this country. Never mind about the European Union. We personally, us consumers in Britain, do not stand up for Britain. And the evidence of that is that it's almost impossible to buy anything British these days. Even things that we think of as representing this great country of ours aren't British anymore. And it has nothing to do with the evil European superstate or anything of that order. The reason that you can't go into a clothes store and buy a nice pair of British-made Action slacks is because it would cost too much. You put a British-made shirt next to a shirt that was made in China, and no one is going to buy the British shirt because it will cost twice as much, because the British worker gets paid more, and the the machinery costs more, and the fabric costs more, and et cetera and so on. It's a luxury product. And the only thing the British consumer is interested in is price. It's all about the money, honey. It's all about price. That's all we care about. So if you really want to blame somebody for the ills of this nation, then you're going to have to blame us, because it's our fault. Or you could cloak yourself in victimhood and just blame somebody else. Yeah, whatever works for you. 03, I don't know why I'm giving you the phone number, because that's me. I'm done. I'm exhausted. Going to go lie down with a cold compress on my head. Hey, make sure you download the LBC or Global Player app, and you can listen to other shows by pressing out the Listen Again button. I think that's what it's called. I think you'll find it a delight. You can also check out my podcasts, which are called the Nick Abbot Habit. Ask for them by name. Coming up, it's Steve Allen who will set you straight at 5 o'clock. But right now, it's Matt Stadland.
Nick, thank you very much indeed. I've got absolutely no idea how we are even going to begin to fit in the true extent